Hello everyone, good morning everybody. So I am teacher Jennifer Lopez, and for this morning together with teacher Kyla Bencito and I, we will be discussing the Spanish influence to the Philippine culture or to our own culture. And at the end of the lesson, we'll be able to, or let's try to understand the importance of the other countries' influence to our own culture. And I hope so that at the end of this video, we'll be able to understand, um, we'll be able to decipher the importance and the impact of other countries' influence, specifically the Spanish influence to our own culture. And let's try also to understand how these influences shaped our own culture and our identity. And I hope that we'll be able to preserve our own culture, to continue celebrating our traditions, and to continue practicing it. Because nowadays, Filipinos became the terrorists of their own countries, right? Am I right? So, diba, Filipinos are pursuing their degree or attending school because they wanted to leave the Philippines. And that's sad because we became the terrorist of our own culture. So, I mean, our own country. But I hope so that at the end of this lesson, we'll be able to reflect and realize that we should love our own and that we continue to celebrate the Filipino culture. Right? So once again, class, together with teacher Kyla and I, we will be discussing the Spanish influence on Filipino culture, one of the most significant and enduring legacies in Philippine history. So, but before we proceed to discussing the influence and the impact of Spanish civilization to our Filipino culture, of course, let's understand first the history. So, as we all know, Spanish civilization or colonization lasted for 333 years from 1565 up until 1898. And during this period, Spain significantly shaped Filipino identity in many aspects of our life, including religion, language, tradition, arts, and many more. And to better understand this influence, we will explore its impact on different cultural domains. And the legacies or the key legacies that the Spanish civilization left the Philippines are first, we have Roman Catholicism, Latin alphabet adoption, what else? Spanish loanwords and Filipino languages, um, Fiesta culture, Spanish surnames, colonial architecture, and many more. And let's try to uncover the influences or how did the Spanish able to influence the Filipino culture. And of course, let's first understand the first influence or the first thing that the Spaniards brought to the Philippines. So first, let us discuss religion and beliefs. So one of the most important Spanish contributions is the introduction of Roman Catholicism. So Roman Catholicism, it is a branch of Christianity led by the Pope in Vatican City, and it emphasizes sacraments, saints, and church traditions. And before Spanish colonization, Filipinos practiced indigenous belief systems, meaning they worshipped nature spirits and ancestral deities. And through Spanish missionaries, Catholicism became widely adopted and remains dominant today. And as we all know, Philippines is the largest population when it comes to Roman Catholicism. So, as a result of the Roman Catholicism dominance, so a lot of Filipino religious practices today are Catholic in nature, which such as our devotion to Santo Niño, which means the Holy Child Jesus. So, um, a widely venerated image of the Child Jesus. So, Santo Niño is, or the feast of Santo Niño is the first month of the year, so it is always celebrated during um, January. Next, we have Virgin Mary, so the mother of Jesus Christ, which is highly honored in Catholic faith. And aside from our devotion to saints and Mom Mary, uh, we also observe Holy Week, diba? Just few months ago, we celebrated Holy Week. So, naatay from Holy Monday ba, up until the Easter Sunday. So during the Holy Week, we have Visita Iglesia. We are visiting seven churches as a form of prayer and reflection. Class, I never been to, visit the Iglesia. So aside from Visita Iglesia, we also have Sinakulo. This is a dramatic reenactment of Christ's suffering and death. We also have Pabasa. This is a chanting of verses narrating Christ's passion. And aside from, Holy Week celebration, we also have Fiesta system. It is in a relation with the religion because in Fiesta, we celebrate Fiesta because we are celebrating our saint, our patron saint. So, a fiesta, it is a community celebration honoring a patron saint, usually involving mass, food, music, and festivities. And just today, Barangay Kawayanan of Tubigon, May 2, kuan ro nila, desperas sa ilahang fiesta. And I hope na ay mo chat na ko nga adto ta man ni hapon sa amo at church. So, that was about the religion. So, grabe gid ang impact or influence sa Spanish civilization when it comes to our religion and our belief system. So, di ba earlier we've talked about religion and belief system, and right before we ended the topic, we had discussed or we opened topic of fiesta. So let's discuss traditions and festivals. So the fiesta culture is one of the strongest Spanish legacies where every town celebrates its own patron saint, which refers to a saint assigned as a protector at a specific place. So diba right now, the month of May is the most famous month in Bohol because in the month of May, we celebrate town fiesta. So diba? And during this, from May 1 up until the end of the month, the Aguirre Fiesta. And just today, or yesterday, May 1, Tagbilaran City celebrated their fiesta, their own fiesta for Wild West. And for our barangay here in Busongan, our patron saint is Saint Augustine. And we celebrate our fiesta every month of July. So, hindi na ko specify what date, kaya pasin niya, manista mo dito sa So, so much from that, these celebrations strengthen community bonds through food, music, and gatherings. So, dili dyan nawa sa fiesta, ang mga disco-disco, ang mga pag-uli sa mga artista, gikan sa laing lugar just to celebrate Christmas. So, Christmas, fiesta. So, aside from these festival or fiesta celebration, we have also here Simpang Gabi. Every December, ginasiya mahitabo. So, Simbang Gabi is a 9-day series of dawn masses before Christmas. So, natin sa Digalyo, which happens every 4 a.m. in the morning, and Simbang Gabi every 7 p.m. in the evening. So, this is to honor the birth of Jesus, right before the birth of Jesus. We have also here, in relation with Christmas celebration, we have also here Noche Buena. This is a Spanish term for good night. So, Noche Buena refers to the Christmas Eve feast shared by families. So, lucky to those people who are able, or lucky to those family who are able to celebrate Christmas together, and ganun ito mag-ubad sila sa Noche Buena. Because nowadays, not nowadays, kay every every Christmas man gani siya mahitabo, especially for those OFW na we're not able to kanang celebrate Christmas together with their family. And especially lucky to those people who are able to afford foods, who are able to afford something for their Noche Buena, because today, or as of the moment, food nga mahal, things nga mahal, very luxury na dyan, especially for the Filipinos, especially that we are facing a crisis as of the moment because of the government, because of our leader, because of the recent war, and many others. So that is why living here in the Philippines, it is a very luxurious, luxurious or luxury na dyan magpuyo na rin sa Philippines. So much from that. So yeah, that was Noche Buena. We have also here Compadrazgo system. This is a social system where godparents become a spiritual family members of a child. So this system or this event or participation is, sorry for the noise, this tradition helps strengthen the bond between ninong and his inaanak or her inaanak. And so how do you form bond, or how do you strengthen your bond with your ninangs and ninongs? Do you ask for money? Do you ask for donations or a gift from your ninong godparents? Am I kanang correct? Do you do that thing? Kay, as for me, class, I don't know. Like, I often see my godparents, so that is why our relationship is blur. So, so these traditions, these festival, fiesta, Noche Buena, Simbang Gabi, Compadrazgo system, and many more, shows how Spanish Catholic practices merge with Filipino community values. And through this, we'll be able to, there's a cultural blending that is happening. So there's a Filipino Hispanic heritage that is happening. Now, let us move on to language and literature. So imagine the influence of Spanish civilization to our language, especially to our literature. Diba? We can see it because that is very evident sa ato ang the way we talk, the way we use the language, because there's a lot of Filipino words that is mostly ako'y student diniditingo siya ni ano itando siya class. So yeah, moreover, so diba, there's a lot of Filipino words that are mostly from or its influence from Spanish. And again, one of the major Spanish influence is to our culture is the adoption of the Latin alphabet, so which replaced baybayin. So baybayin is the ancient pre-colonial writing system of early Filipinos made of syllabic characters. So right when the Spaniards stepped foot in the Philippines, start na sila use of Latin words. Kaya of course, they cannot talk they cannot speak our language rather. And so what they did, since they govern the entire Philippines, of course, they replaced our own alphabet or writing system through to Latin alphabet. And today, Filipino languages contain over 6,000 Spanish loanwords. So, ano nga ba ang loanwords? So, ito ay words borrowed from Spanish. And imagine, over 6,000, there are over 6,000 Spanish loanwords sa ating lingwahe. At these includes mesa, kutsara, silya, libro, and so much more. So that was about the language. So in terms of literature, Spain introduced written religious and poetic forms. And what was again the first book or the first printed book here in the Philippines? And that was a religious book, or that was the book contains Catholic teachings used for religious instruction. What was that again? Very good. That was the Doctrina Christiana, and it was published on 1593. So again, Doctrina Christiana contains Catholic teachings used for religious instruction, such as for masses or prayers. So aside from Doctrina Christiana, other literary forms include Passion. So Passion, it is a chant narrating the suffering and death of Jesus Christ. We also have Awit and Corrido. We have this means, or it is a narrative poems about romance, religion, or heroism. Example of awit is Florante at Laura by Francisco Baltazar. And for the corrido is the Ibong Adarna by Jose Sisiu or Jose de la Cruz. So aside from awit and corrido, passion, we have also here comedia or moro moro. So moro moro, it is a theatrical play showing battles between Christians and Muslims, often symbolic rather than historical. And guess who win the battle? Of course, the Christianity. And of course, makakalimutan ba natin ang very important figure during the Spanish colonization? Of course, no. A very important figure during those times was no other than Dr. Jose Rizal. So, Jose Rizal was a Filipino nationalist, writer, and reform advocate, and he wrote the famous novels No Limitang Here, El Filibusterismo, and so much more. And these novels mentioned earlier, these novels exposed the Spanish abuses and inspired Filipino nationalism. So, these books help us to regain our independence or our freedom. Okay? Diba? Filipinos fought for our independence, diba? For our freedom because hindi na nila kaya ang pang-aabuso ng mga Espanyol. So before we proceed to the next influence, the Spanish civilization to our culture, let's go back na muna sa atong discuss plus nakalibot na muna. So first, we have discussed about the religion and beliefs, traditions, language, and literature. And now, let's proceed to the very important and my favorite when we talk about Filipino culture. So, and this is all about Filipino cuisines. Yes. So, mga Filipino dishes that were influenced by the Spanish culture, Spanish tradition. So, Spaniards does not just change our tradition, our religion, our language, literature, but it also changed the way we view food culture. So it also changed the Filipino food culture. So my favorite Filipino food yun is adobo. And this is one of the kanang dish na influenced by Spain. And before that, let's discuss first the key concept or one key concept na gi-introduce sa Spanish sa atwa. And this is sofrito. So what is sofrito? So this is a cooking base made from garlic, onions, and tomatoes and is commonly used in Spanish cooking. So and many Filipino food or Filipino cuisine, Filipino dishes today are influenced by Spain. And this includes adobo, my favorite, though it was already present before colonization, but it was refined during the Spanish rule. Aside from adobo, we have also here lechon, menudo, pancit, and the most, dili ko siya, viral food as of the moment, ang Ilocos empanada. Ano, tara? So, empanada also is this is also food influenced by Spaniards. We have also here leche flan, one of my favorite desserts. And these foods are commonly served during celebrations and fiestas, especially for those people who really cannot afford nga magluto sa ani nga mga dishes every day, so ginatiguman gini nila para ihanda sa ilahang upcoming fiestas or sa ilahang birthday celebrations, binyag, and so much more events nga ani ra jud nato makita ni nga mga foods. And that was all about the Filipino cuisine. So the Spanish culinary influence our Filipino food culture. So next to cuisines, of course, let us discuss the influence of Spanish to our names and to our social systems. Do you think your surname is something related with Spanish blood? Because for me, as for mine, I think it's kanang bitaw na siya pagka Spanish sound. But of course, I will not claim kay wala man tayong evidence. And back then, back in 1849, sorry class, Governor General Narciso Claveria issued a decree standardizing Filipino surnames. So, Narciso Claveria is the kanang highest Spanish colonial official in the Philippines during the kanang Spanish civilization. And during his time, nag-issue siya og decree nga dapat all Filipinos must follow these surnames, these Filipino surnames. And because of this decree, many Filipinos adopted Spanish surnames. So, and the very common Spanish surnames are De La Cruz, Angelica De La Cruz, Juan De La Cruz. We have also here Reyes, kinsa ba na LG Reyes, kinsa ba na mga artist or mga Filipino nga mga Reyes, diba? And basta sa mga role play sa mga gamiton sa nato apelido sa teachers are De Los Santos, Reyes, De La Cruz, and we have also here Santos, and so much more Filipino surnames. And when we talk about social behavior, Spain also introduced the concept of delicadeza. So what is delicadeza? So it is a proper conduct, dignity, and a sensitivity in social interaction. So my question is, may delicadeza ka ba? Of course you have. And so I hope that we always practice this, ha? Dili na to di wala sa ato ang culture isip usa ka Filipino. And when we talk about social systems, of course, key concept about this thing is the courtship. So courtship, it is during this period, it was also formal, and this means relationships were strictly supervised and conservative. So may ligawan noong sa panahon na Spanish colonization, there's what we term courtship. And courtship strengthened the family ties between two parties. And aside from courtship, we have also here maintaining strong connection with people with higher authorities. Diba? They have social hierarchy systems, so they respect each other. I mean, they were forced to respect, some were forced to respect the Spanish authorities. And again, names were, what do you mean? I mean, back then, they issued a decree that all Filipinos must have this kind of surname. So, i-search na ninyo basin na ang inyong surname kay appeal sa katong decree. And also, I hope na ato ang buhion balik courtship na tradition. Diba? And I hope that we maintain the delicadeza na culture sa kung bisan asa mo ta to abot. Diba? And now, we are down to architecture. So, one important structure influenced by Spaniards is the bahay na bato or house of stone. So this is a Filipino-Spanish house style combining, of course, stone base. This is a Spanish influence. Wooden upper floor. This is a native Filipino design. And this design was created to withstand earthquakes and tropical weather para prevent any kind of natural disaster. So Spanish towns also followed the plaza complex system, which organized communities around, like church is the center of the religion, government building, which is the political center, and a plaza, what is a public gathering space. And kuan class, makabantay sa tambong na many of our churches kaya kanang more of Spanish style good, no? So that is one of the or that was one of the influence of Spaniards ato kana sacred na house. So now we are down to the last two or second from the last influence of Spanish colonization to our culture, and that is performing arts, specifically dance. So nowadays, pili na sikat ang mga dances, mga folk dances, mga dances na influence from Spaniards. Kaya karon ang mga dances na karon is mga TikTok dances, Brazilian dance, diba? So, it's not mga tinikling anymore. It's not mga karinyosa anymore, but all of those mga TikTok dances na balik-balik na po ang stepping. So, for this morning, of course, let us discuss the Spanish influence on our dances. So first, we have here cariñosa. So a cariñosa, it is a courtship dance using fans or handkerchief. So cariñosa means affectionate or loving or lovely. You're being lovely to your specific person. Aside from cariñosa, we also have here jota. It is a lively Spanish folk dance. We have also here fandango or pandango. It is a fast-paced traditional dance from Spain. And lastly, we have here Rigodon de Honor. It is a formal ballroom dance performed in elite gatherings. So, I hope that these dances kay mubalik bitaw like mao ang musikat or dili ba siya angay pag TikTok like kana ba i-perform siya sa mga events, sa unsa pa na mga important events, and atoa siyang i-practice, atoa siyang i-embody kay nowadays mga TikTok dances ato kay mga ganto Brazilian dance, sa pa mga hip-hop dances nga mga lisod kayo ang stepping nga influence western influence, for example mga BTS dances, di ba mao na ang common dances sa mga hip-hoppers nowadays. So I hope that these dances, cariñosa, pandango, and many more will be preserved and will be practiced by the new generation, especially the Gen Alpha and Generation Z, Generation Beta, not Beta, and so much ang mga upcoming generation. I hope that these dances will not be forgotten. So aside from dances, of course, Spain also introduced a lot of music to us. And first, ang pinakasikat noon na hindi na siya masyadong pinapractice ngayon is first is the harana. So what is harana? Harana. So this is a traditional serenade where a man sings outside a woman's house to court her. Ngayon, is it still present? Wala na no. Kay mostly ang courting, di man gani siya courting, nahitabo na siya online. And wala na courting ang mahitabo, right? So dito na siya, yes, I want to be your this and that. And wala na po ang essence sa dating during this time. Kaya nga naman, masettle naman for last. Like, masettle naman ta sa situationship, masettle naman ta sa mga no-label na relationship. So, di ba wala na ang essence sa Filipino culture when it comes to dating. Kaya wala na yung harana, wala na yung courtship, di ba? Kaya musugot naman po ding ubang girls. I'm talking to about this. Sorry. Musugot naman po ding mga ubang Filipinos na sa cellphone na sila na, you know, sa cellphone na mag-confess ay lahang na feel. So, aside from harana, so unta, maibalik natin nga siya mga tradition. I'm sorry class if I'm, you know, speaking in vernacular because I wanted to emphasize what I wanted to say. Yeah, so much from that. You have also here Kondiman. So this is an emotional Filipino love songs expressing deep longing. So kung naay harana for about your to express how you feel for that person, naaputek Kondiman which express how you miss that person. Karon kay magpadungog-dungog naman ta sa notes, no? If mingawan ta sa usa ka tawo, padungog-dungog ay mag notes-notes na dayon ta mga kanta, nga mga magaan na ba ang iyong paghinga? So, dili naman ta kundiman current class. Kay modern naman jud ta, dili naman ta musabay na mga karaan. So, of course, musabay ta sa unsa ang kanang common use. So, I hope na present gyapon ning kundiman. Yes, naaga pun tay longing, we express our deep longing for specific person, but dili na to, wala ta nagamit og kundiman, kundi mga songs, mga modern songs. Unsa mga is there a lifetime waiting for us? Nga man ato ang mga atake. So, aside from Harana and Kondiman, we have also here Rondalia. So, Rondalia, so this is an ensemble of string instruments such as banduria and guitar. So I think gina-practice na siya sa some schools. Kada may tao na ay, it's a matter kay na ay MDC folkloric. So other schools kay naa po sila mga band bitaw and ilang ginagamit na band are mga traditional ones. And naa po yung rondal na. So that was when it comes to music, these are the Spanish influence to our music. So again, mostly of our Filipino performing arts are Spanish influence. And at this point, ladies and gentlemen, it is important to understand that Spanish influence did not completely replace Filipino culture. But before we discuss the replay, let's again reiterate the Spanish influences our own culture. We have religion, the influence of Spanish to our religion and belief, to our tradition, to our language, to our literature, to our cuisine, to our what else? Music, dance, names, and architecture. So again, it is important to note that Spanish influence did not completely replace our Filipino culture mentioned earlier. So instead, it merged with our indigenous traditions. It created a Filipino Hispanic cultural identity, which remains relevant up until today, and the legacy that the Spanish left to us. So this means Filipino Hispanic cultural identity means a blended culture where both Spanish and native Filipino elements exist together. For example, fiestas combining Catholic religion with Filipino community spirit. Aside from that, food combining Spanish recipes with local ingredients. And lastly, architecture blending European and native designs. So again, it is important to note that Spaniards did not entirely change our culture, but it blended our own, it merged to our culture. So now, we are down to our conclusion. That was fast. That was a quick lesson lang, no? I just talked about the history of the Spanish civilization, and now we are down to the conclusion. So, to conclude this discussion, it is important to note that Spanish influence on Filipino culture is profound and long-lasting. So, it shaped our religion, our language, our traditions, our cuisines, our arts, and our architecture. And despite colonial history, despite of what happened in the despite of what happened in the past, Filipinos adapted, not the adopt, but adapted and transformed these influences into a unique cultural identity. Therefore, Spanish legacy remains an important part of our Filipino culture today. So again, despite of the very painful past, we are also grateful with the fact that shape our identity and everything that is happening or everything is already here in the Philippines. So again, I hope that we all like our objective is to understand the importance of Spanish influence to our culture. And I hope that while listening to our class discussion, you're able to reflect and realize that it's important to preserve our own, to continue practicing our beliefs, our traditions, and to continue celebrating the Philippines. So I hope that you have learned a lot from this discussion for this morning. And if you have anything, um, any questions or clarifications, don't hesitate to ask me. Don't hesitate to drop a comment in the comment section below. And that I hope that you're able to learn a lot and maadan ang inyong knowledge about sa ato ang own culture. So that's it for today class. I hope you learned so much. So this is Teacher Jan. So sa tawag ni on behalf of Teacher Kyla, we wanted to say thank you for lending your ears and your time in listening to our discussion. So thank you so much and God bless you. See you next time.